Hi everyone. In today's video, we're going to dive into the highlights of the CIP-1694 workshops named after Voltaire, held in Edinburgh, Scotland. This workshop brought together the global Cardano community to discuss 6 important topics. Let's jump right into it. On day 1, workshop hosts from all over the world shared key themes and ideas. These are some of the most presented and most important topics during day 1. The Latin American community emphasized the need for a minimum viable constitution and prioritized its update. Gimba Labs highlighted identity and raising awareness of Cardano governments. Discussions revolved around the importance of transparency, clarity, and building information. Kenrick Nielsen highlighted some potential centralization issues with the one coin, one vote policy. Mercy and Megan from WADA pointed out the need for information and to get the conversation going in Africa with more education. From the Norwegian workshops, we highlighted the need for a sustainable treasury management. We also got a great presentation from the Edinburgh Decentralization Index, something we'll be talking more about in a later video since this is a real important topic. Now, I will let the word over to Eystein, who will share the highlights from day 2.
Moving on to day 2, the workshop focused on key issues such as on-chain deposits, treasury withdrawals, community tooling, action expiration, action thresholds, and DREP incentives. The clear consensus it was reached on community tooling, action expiration, and that action threshold should be different for different actions. The remaining topics saw quite ongoing discussions and many proposals, and there was an agreement that these needs to be worked on further. The workshop then also had a live demo of Constitution being voted on in the upcoming Cardano node 8.2, and I got goosebumps, at least me, when the Constitution update was published successfully on the Sancho testnet. In one of the ending speeches, Charles raised an important point regarding treasury management. He looked at types of treasury management, for example, national wealth management or more sustainable treasury management, and that both could be valid approaches for the community going forward. And to wrap up, the workshop in Edinburgh was a great opportunity for global collaboration and community building. Connections were made, for sure, and ideas were shared, and it was paving the way for exciting Cardano projects in the future. And thanks for watching this summary so far. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a thumbs up, click that bell, and subscribe for more Cardano content. No, the video is not over. Please listen to what Charles said during his opening speech on day 1, followed by some more brief recaps from some of the other workshop hosts from different parts of the community.
And to Switzerland. Some did some Latin American workshops and brought together clusters of countries, Uruguay, Argentina, Brazil. We have representation from Norway. And it's pretty amazing how so many people were all united with a desire just to make Cardano better. This is the most complicated thing that we've ever done as a community, because what we're doing is effectively building a government to unlock all the value that the ecosystem has accrued throughout the years. And it's almost like a trust fund. You get a little worried about it because you say, well, we've all sacrificed, we've all invested our time and effort to build something great, and this is the first time where when it unlocks, all of that is now universally available to everyone. And we have to make good decisions somehow, some way, over priorities, roadmaps, what's legitimate, what's not legitimate, how much to spend, where to spend it, and ultimately, what should the ecosystem be when it wants to grow up? What's really cool though is that every single time in the Cardano ecosystem that we've asked for people to rise up, not only have they done it, they've exceeded expectations. We saw that with Catalyst, over 1,100 projects that have been funded, more than $50 million, half of which have already completed. We saw that with the incentivized testnet, when we said, hey, we need people to be stake pool operators. And we were thinking, gosh, will there be 100, 200, well over 1,000 showed up, and now there's 3,000 plus. And now we see it again when we said, hey, we'd like some people to start working on governance as a community. And having over 1,000 people take time to sit in a room for a few days and talk about DREPs and constitutional committee and rights and these types of things. It's not exactly something you expect people would do. But not only did they do it, they showed up. And therein lies the magic of a decentralized ecosystem, is when you have this ability to call people all across the world, huge amount of diversity, to just show up and think and do. Now, there are a lot of hard problems we have to solve, and the worst possible mindset is this idea that unless we can solve everything, do nothing. The reality is that we have an obligation to engage and grow and change, and every single thing we do in this ecosystem is about getting to a point where we have the ability to do more. So this year, something great's going to happen. I'm not entirely sure what CIP-1694 is going to look like at the end of the rainbow, but I do know it'll be massively better than what we have today. And I do know that it is recursive, in that we're going to use it to make something far beyond what we've come up with in this room today. There are a lot of challenges ahead in the cryptocurrency space. There's a bit of an identity crisis, and there's a lot of competition from across the bow. As many of you know, there are regulatory challenges, there's philosophical challenges. There are some people in the media who say that cryptocurrencies have come and gone and it's a failed experiment. Well, I don't see much failure here. I see nothing but success. And I see a lot of great people who want to do things differently and do things better. The core of Cardano has always been about maximizing every person's voice and their freedom, and giving them a set of tools where they get to define what their own money is, to define what their own identity is, to define how the society around them should work and operate. So do keep that in the back of your mind when we develop these governance tools and we think about where they're going to go. Ultimately, if we're successful, this could be the financial stack of the world 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now. And the governance of that, it's incredibly important. The rights people have are incredibly important. The way things are structured is incredibly important, because that will decide whether you've maximized freedom or you've handed control to the few. There's no guarantee of any particular configuration. It can be one way or the other. There's no law of physics that says everybody is supposed to have a say and a voice and be in control. You know, the other thing that we have to understand is that there is no perfect governance system. I can't point to any particular protocol or institution and say they figured governance out. Because even if it works really well today in a particular context, technology changes. The level of connectiveness changes, the requirements change. If there's one example that I love using is we invited years ago Vint Cerf to one of our conferences, and we asked him a single question. Vint was one of the creators of the internet. And we said, if you could develop the internet again, what would you do differently? And he spent 45 minutes opining on all the mistakes that he made. He's like, you know, mobile computing, we really didn't think of mobile computing. Why? Because computers filled the whole room. It was a pretty absurd concept to think that we'd have billions of mobile computing devices in our pocket running around. Well, the issue is the protocol was never designed for that. Identity, like the internet back then was a phone book. If you wanted to know who was online, you'd look them up in the phone book and you'd say, oh, that's Dan. He's at University of Indiana, and here's his email address. this concept of needing to identify your links and people, it was pretty absurd because there was like 100 people online. Why would you need to build an identity layer inside the system? So obviously there were things they couldn't conceive. And that's why we have bots. And that's why we have Google, and this is why we have data centers. And this is why TCP/IP works the way it does. And in the flaws of that protocol, people have taken advantage of it, and it's made the internet not as good as we want it to be. And so we have to always think about this, is understand that in the future, decisions we make, positive, negative, will live with us for quite a long time. And so rights are sticky and tricky, and where and when you compromise them for convenience, you might not ever be able to uncompromise them. So there's a lot of philosophy here, there's a lot of staging here, and it's difficult to get through. But one thing that I've really enjoyed is the structured process that Nigel, Joel, and a lot of the organizers have put on for this, and the people who've held workshops. It's pretty remarkable to bring people together from across the world and get them all to talk about the same thing and not have it radically diverge. You know, if you look at the internet as a whole, usually conversations online, within about 25 minutes, there's at least somebody calling somebody a Nazi. And the fact that we've been able to have the same conversation about the same thing for several months, and there's been a great degree of civility and insight passion, is a pretty remarkable thing as well. So there's a lot of backlog. We owe it to all the people who have took the time to have workshops to discuss what they discussed and their fears and concerns. There's a lot of ideas that people have. There's a lot of things that we have to kind of sequence appropriately. The workshop structure that we have here, I think, will be able to facilitate that and push everybody through. I know it can be a little frustrating, and it might not move at the pace that you want, and that's okay. We will get there as long as we stay empathetic and friendly and we listen to each other and respect each other. But thank you for coming here to Scotland. It's a lovely city, Edinburgh. A lot does get done here at this lab. So make a lot of friends, get to know a lot of people. I see some new faces, I see some old faces that I've known for a while, and I can't wait to get to know all of you. And if you have any questions at all, I'll be at table number 3. And there's a lot of other wonderful people to meet. And I hope that we can get everything done in just a few days and have a really successful closing, and also get CIP 1694 implemented and turned on. And then we can look at this as one of the great moments in the history of Cardano. Hopefully many, many, many more to come in the ensuing decades. Cheers.
Hello everybody, I'm Lucas Macchiavelli. I'm part of the Latin Cardano community, and I also represented Buenos Aires, Argentina at the Edinburgh workshop. Being there was one of the best experiences of my life. I got to work side by side with some of the coolest builders on Cardano, and I couldn't be more proud of what we have achieved as a community. And yeah, it was truly an amazing experience, and I hope we can do this type of governance events in the future, and it's something that's recurrent on the Cardano community. Cheers.
Hi everyone, my name is Nicolas Cerny and I'm a community manager working at the Cardano Foundation. I've also been part of the CIP-1694 workshop in Edinburgh, and I've also hosted and organized the CIP-1694 workshop in Zug, Switzerland in the beginning of June. What really stuck with me from the Edinburgh workshop was how difficult governance can be and how hard it is to find some sort of consensus about specific topic. For example, in our case, treasury withdrawals, right? People can get very emotional about governance discussions, but that's also one of the good things, because if no one is really passionate about it, I would say that means they either don't care or they just cannot understand or do not see how it relates to their personal life or their personal well-being. So governance is hard, but I think what the whole CIP workshops showed us, there's a lot of interest in the Cardano community about governance. We had over 1,000 attendees over all these different workshops coming there, participating, spending their valuable time discussing how the future on-chain governance model on Cardano should look like. And I think that's really inspiring. And one thing that I hope we achieved from these workshops, or that we achieved by doing these workshops, is that all the different countries, all these different chapters that organized workshops will continue to do so. So they saw now how successful a governance workshop can be, how their local community can be engaged with, or can be used in a way. So I hope that a lot of the hosts from these workshops who were also part of the Edinburgh workshop really, really start to think about what to do next. Think about how to engage their community in these governance discussions. Because this is just the beginning, right? The SanchoNet, the testnet for Voltaire, is now live, of course, at the moment with very minimal features, but it's going to progress, it's going to evolve, and I hope we will see a lot of activity there. We will see a lot of SPOs, developers, teams, also D-Reps, people who are just interested in governance, participate, show up. I will do my best to do that. I'm not a developer, but I will definitely try to be active, and I hope a lot of you do as well. Governance can only work if people participate and if people care. And I do think, and I know, that the Cardano community cares about governance, they care about a better future, and they care about how the system works and looks like.
Hi, my name is Oscar and I'm a Cardano ambassador based in South Korea. I took part in this CIP-1694 final workshop representing the Korean community, and I think it was a very important time for Cardano's governance. Up until now, governance discussions have been relatively fragmented, but this workshop brought together workshop facilitators from different countries to gather input from the community and share their thoughts. As important as it is to have a good structure for governance, it's just as important to have more people's voice in governance. We all live in different environments and have different political systems and economic environments, which is why there can be so many different opinions on a single agenda. Of course, it's not always easy to get together or trying to discuss governance, but I think this workshop will open the door for more discussion about governance to take place online. I think the agenda of governance development is an area where it's important to engage the community, even more so than other development agendas. That's why the community needs to keep an eye on the governance discussion and stay engaged. I'm glad to have connected with the Norwegian community through this opportunity and look forward to discussing more with you in the future. Thank you.